Hey Tommy, I got Michael's email. You're good to go. If you need help with anything, just shoot me a message, shoot me a chat or whatever. Um, but I don't know how much Michael shared with you. Pretty straightforward, pretty standard. If you want to speak about anything, just introduce yourself, your name, your program, and that's pretty much it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for stepping in today. I appreciate that. Are you near your computer right now?
Hey, Devon.
Hey Michael, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
If you said something to me, I didn't hear it, but maybe you were talking to someone else.
Nope, I was talking to Keegan. I
Okay.
might just text him. Thank you though. Hey Sydney.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. I'm working on a take-home exam today.
Oh no,
Yeah.
it's not fun. Is that the last assignment of the semester?
Yeah, this is the last thing I have to do, so I'm like, oh, I just want to get it done. So, yeah.
I hear that. Good luck.
Thanks.
Is
Of
this your
course.
exam or are you grading?
This is me taking an exam. It's a
Gotcha.
neuro class, and we're supposed to write like basically mini proposal. It's kind of a cruel exam, but it be what it be. It's almost
Wow.
done.
Yeah, that seems a little cruel.
Yeah.
Best of luck.
I always want to like queue up music before the meetings, and then I always forget about it until last minute, and I'm like, do I go on YouTube? Do I go on Spotify? What do I do? So we
Also,
just sit in
would that
awkward.
get our things flagged on like when we upload to YouTube or no? I never know how strict they are.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a great point. So now we sit in awkward silence. Does anyone have any fun updates? Anything? Who has plans over the holiday break? Where's everyone going? Nowhere.
So I'm going home. I
Okay.
plan on relaxing, take a break.
Where's home?
Just like an hour south of DC in Fredericksburg.
Nice, cool.
Yeah.
That'll
Yeah.
be good.
Not going far, thankfully, so I don't have to deal with like crazy traffic.
Yeah, good. That'll be good.
What are you
Anyone else?
doing?
Um, Pretty much same going home, back to Jersey, but I'll be back and forth a little bit, so just trying to enjoy what I can. Anyone else? What's everyone else doing? Back to Kentucky. That'll be fun.
I'm going home to Italy,
Okay.
so excited. Yeah,
That'll be good.
yeah. Me
Thi-
too. Need a break from the US.
Yeah, you'll be. Ugh. When are you coming back?
On the 26th of January. So
Okay, so after the fun inauguration.
yeah, yep.
That's a nice way to put it. How's the weather this time of year in Italy?
Uh, Depends where you're from, but like I'm from the north and it's I would say roughly like here. In the south it's much warmer, but yeah, so not gonna be a big improvement, I'd say.
Okay. Interesting.
Will you get snow there?
Sometimes I'm not then I mean I'm pretty near to the Alps, but like elevation wise it's still like pretty low. So sometimes we do, but I guess as often as you get it here, so nothing common.
Well, that's it. Cool.
As more people trickle in, does anyone else have any fun travel plans over the holiday break? Going anywhere? Spend time with family?
Austin, New
Man,
Jersey.
back to New Jersey.
Maybe the Poconos too.
Okay, that'll be good. Nora's going to Pittsburgh. That'll be fun. I feel like whenever you're not in school, you just need to step away wherever that is. So even if it's Sydney and an hour south or whatever, it's still away from the classroom environment, from College Park. So Pitt Panthers. Planning to go to New York for New Year's Eve. Be careful, be safe. It gets super congested in the city, and that's it'll be a good time though.
Have
It's just
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about it, but this is actually going to be my first time at New York for the New Year's Eve, so let's see how things go.
hmm, enjoy it.
I do think that New York City with snow is one of the best views out there, in my opinion. Although that's been inconsistent in recent years. It's like it might be snow, it might also be torrential downpours and flooding. So you know.
More people. Um, was I gonna say? Keegan, question for you.
Yeah.
With Vara not coming on time, if if our guests aren't here in time, do you just want to move your updates, your address
Sure, I can do
forward
that.
to fill up that time? Cool.
I can do that.
Cool, 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 cool.
Also, just a heads up for you. I have another appointment at 2. So if we end up running late, I will need to pass post to you, just so you're
Okay.
aware.
Cool. I see a good amount of us doing it, but just as a reminder, as we trickle in, if you could put your program by your name, for purposes of knowing who's here, that would be great. And I'll also update my name while I say that as well. That's Brandon. It is Friday the 13th. Didn't even realize that. Perfect. That means nothing's going to go wrong at all. Smooth meeting. Maybe we get out of here by 1:30. Perfect. So the time is 12:05 and we do have quorum. So hopefully more people do start to trickle in as we begin. But I'm going to call the meeting to order at 12:05 p.m. Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. And I do appreciate each and every one of you for making yourselves available in the midst of finals, in the midst of the end of the semester. And prepping for holiday plans. I know we briefly discussed that at the start of the meeting and as people were coming in. Whatever religion, whatever way you view this upcoming break, it's definitely something where you want to tune out of your academics and out of schoolwork. So I truly do appreciate all of you making yourselves available during this time of the year to have one more meeting before the start of the new year. So hi everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Devon Pender. I have the privilege of serving as the Vice President for Legislative Affairs for the Graduate Student Government. And I shared an agenda with all of you, but I will also begin sharing my screen as well once I pull it up. Quickly, just going to, while I pull this up, wherever it may be. Thank you for your patience, y'all. Cool. Sharing my screen now. Oh. Perfect. So beginning with the agenda, the first thing on the agenda is the president's address. Currently the president is going to be, VAR's going to be joining us a little later. So we're going to just amend the agenda to just pivot to the VPLA's address. Keegan, there's no official like motion that we have to do.
Well, it's just out of order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, what I briefly just wanted to address the assembly, and I know most of y'all are usually do this and do a great job at it, is just and for anyone that's just joining, feel free to update your name and then have your program with your name as well. We do have 2 guest speakers coming to the assembly. So if you are able to turn on your camera, I encourage you to do so. And then some other brief housekeeping is for those of you that might not be familiar, throughout the assembly, we might call for motions and seconds for moving forward. So feel free to unmute and just do that whenever whenever I make a call for those. And then the last thing that I do want to hit is whenever you're going to ask a question or you want to address something, make a comment, whatever that is, feel free to just raise your hand and then I will call on you, and then just announce your name and then your program as well. And then the actual last thing that I want to address is that moving forward, there will be, if there's ever anything that you do want to address in legislation, in the assembly capacity, in you want to host an event, whatever that might be, always feel comfortable approaching the executive team, myself, Vara, Michael, Keegan, Ria. If you have any questions or concerns, anything for us, certainly feel free to bring those forward. We'll be more than happy to help you throughout the process. So again, thank you all for being here today, and I'm just seeing if our guest speaker is here yet. Not seeing at this time. So what we are going to do, and I will call for a motion just because we are going to go a little bit out of order. So I'm going to ask for a motion to make an amend to the agenda and have the Director of Operations address before our presentation. So
Motion to amend the order and have the Director of Operations address prior to the presentation from Simone Warwick Bell.
Seconded.
perfect.
Okay, well, I will try to fill some time then. I don't have a whole lot unusually for me, so I don't know how much time I'll be able to fill, but I do have a few things. So first of all, just so everyone is aware, governance committee did finally form. That special election by vote by email or by link actually did work. So thank you all for participating. For those of you on governance committee that are here right now, thank you. You'll be receiving an email from Ria and maybe me, because I'm going to be reaching out to individual people just to let them know in case they aren't already aware. Yeah, so I thank you all for that, and we will have the hope is to have the first session of that committee just so you can elect your committee chair before the end of the semester. Whether that's actually going to happen is something else entirely. But just so you know, it's a thing finally. And we no longer have to pull teeth, and you won't have to have me awkwardly sitting here in silence waiting for people to volunteer. So, hooray for everyone involved. Okay, so moving on. The other thing I have to say is, for those of you who are new, as of a couple of sessions ago, this at that point I realized, if you don't have, we have a roster for all of our reps, and I have been slowly over the course of the year adding headshots to said roster. So if you could send me, if you haven't already, if you could send me your the a good like portrait style headshot of yourself, and then also make sure that I have the spelling of your name correctly, and I will update the website accordingly. If you sent me something like in the last month or and some change and I haven't gotten to it yet, please just resend it because things have fallen through the cracks. It's been a very busy month and a half. So yeah, if and that actually goes for anything. If you have sent me like a request to update the website or anything like that, please do send it again. It really has been a very hectic month and a half, and also I've been dealing with some health issues. So things have fallen through the cracks. I will not be offended if you bug me about it. Please do. And my apologies. Okay. The other final thing is that so back in September, we started up the grad committee. Nothing has happened with the grad committee. For those of you who are new, grad committee is a committee that is for hosting our own like graduate research appreciation day, which is basically a mini conference that we host every year for grad students to present their research in whatever stage it's in, and also get some experience with presenting at a conference if they have never done that sort of thing. We did have 3 people join a couple of months ago. I was waiting on the University System of Maryland to get back to me on whether or not they wanted to coordinate with University of Maryland to do something statewide. They have still not gotten back to me. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward with starting that up and getting us rolling. That'll probably be happening first thing in January, so look for it then. I will hopefully have more to share then. But if you are in the committee, or even if you're not, and you've an idea for what would be neat to see at a Research Appreciation Day, please do let me know what you think would be a good idea. Because our format changes every year, so there is flexibility. So if you think, yeah, it'd be cool to have, like posters or something like that, or a formal like review. It depends on how many volunteers we get, of course. But yeah, let us know if you have thoughts on what would be neat to see in a Research Appreciation Day. And it does take all day, so we have time for it. Yeah, send me an email. Let's see. There were a few other things that I see I don't actually have to stall for that much more time, so I'm not going to. I think that should do it. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, yeah, I think I'm done with my segment.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Keegan. Dr. Kelly, I see that you have joined us.
Yep.
Do you need a second, or are you?
No, I'm good and ready.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Warren Kelly, for joining us today. For those of you that don't know, Dr. Warren Kelly serves as the Senior Associate Vice President for Wellbeing at the University of Maryland. So we are extremely grateful to have him join us today. So what I'm just going to call for is just a quick motion to move to Dr. Kelly's address.
Motion to move to Dr. Kelly's address.
Seconded.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Kelly, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Devon. I appreciate you inviting me to attend. It's fun talking with you. And what I want to do is really give you a quick overview of some of the operations that report to me, just so I provide some context and a little bit about that, but not kind of go on about that. And then leave plenty of time for questions that you might have about the sort of the areas that I have some expertise in, or sort of understanding about, or responsibility for. So the way I'm going to do this is cover my units quickly. It's a counseling center, the health center, accessibility, disability services, recreation and wellness. Beyond that, more as an umbrella, because those operations all relate to the health and well-being of students. I co-chaired the mental health task force with Dr. Lushniak last year, and we're moving forward with some of the ideas and recommendations coming out of that mental health task force. And we did, I believe, sort of the best we could to understand the graduate student experience, and that's a part of what we've done. And so I certainly want to understand your perspective about that as we talk this through. So that's kind of my agenda. And if that sounds okay, I'll just jump right in. Okay, I'll start with the counseling center. My hope is to provide like a real quick backdrop and then a little bit of a sense about sort of where we are, so that if you have questions either right away or we can do them at the end. Either way is fine. I hope not to go on for more than 15 minutes. The counseling center sees about 3,000 clients a year, unique clients a year. It's pretty consistent, better than most of the campuses around the country, but pretty consistent with what that looks like at other universities. We've expanded the clinicians in the counseling center by 48% over the last 3 years. Actually, it's 50%, but if you include the therapists we have in the health center, it goes to about 48%. So we've had a significant expansion in the number of actual clinicians we have in the counseling center. This follows the whole curve of understanding the mental health challenge. Some call it the crisis that's extended for more than a decade in higher education. We've done a lot of research around what's going on around the country, as well as here to understand sort of our context as well in both the undergraduate and graduate level. And I would say, just as a kind of a coverage of that, that you may have seen, if you include undergraduates and graduates together, measured across this country in higher education, clinical levels of diagnosable levels of depression amongst those student populations across the country is bordering on 40 to 44%. That is, based on metrics that assess that, the students come up to a clinically diagnosable level. And anxiety comes in around 35 or 36%. It's really high, and both those numbers are really high. And just an aside, a lot of the anxiety, it turns out, is social anxiety. Now, that may be more true of the undergraduate population, but it's true generally, and it's actually true in the population. So if you think about issues like loneliness and belonging and the difficulty people have in establishing relationships and connecting, having anxiety is a huge barrier to that, and having social anxiety is almost a showstopper in some ways. And so how we think about creating environments where we can help people connect with others, and find paths to belong and feel like they matter is something that we think is really, really important when you've got a big campus and you need to sort of see how you can do that in a big context. So with the counseling center, about 3,000 clients a year, 40% growth. The three things I'd like to mention about the counseling center that are new, and this is funding that's been provided by the president, advocated for by our vice president. And so we've been really appreciating that this money has come to us for this. They've created an 8-clinician initial access team, and their only goal is to see students as quickly as they can, right? The idea of wait times and wait lists related to higher education, which has been an issue here and across the country. Their goal is to make that short. And so they're trained in that. They do it quickly, and what we've seen is a doubling of the number of intakes. So we've gone from 70 intakes a week to more than 150 intakes a week actually now, so that we're seeing students quicker. And we're using different modalities. For example, they can offer things like single sessions. For many students, the issue they have doesn't need 6 sessions to resolve. They need a professional to help them think about something right now, and that may be enough, and they offer single sessions. 97% of the students that elect for a single session who have the opportunity to go on and take more sessions don't. And what that means is we're scaling the care to the problem, and that gives us more resource availability for other things. We've created what's called MHEART. It's the Mental Health Emergency and Assistance Response Team. This is new. It's a hard thing for universities to do, but I'm really, really grateful that our university has done this. Here's the issue. Students who are in mental health crisis, and we will get upwards of 100 transports a year on a campus of our size and our population. That is a call for an emergency mental health issue that requires a student to be considered for transportation to a hospital emergency room for evaluation. That's what that means. More than a year ago and beyond that, on this campus and across this country, at 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, when that call comes in, a police officer shows up. And that police officer, really making a choice on what to do, decides to take them to the hospital. And what they do is they handcuff them. Pause right there. They put them in the back of a police car. They drive them to the nearest emergency room that has availability, and they hand them over. And I would call that trauma on the trauma. Whatever trauma has been going on in a student's life, that's trauma. And I've talked to some students that have come back after that. Some international students, by the way, who've come back after that, getting stopped by our police force and handcuffed and put in a police car. Their protocols make sense. I mean, the idea of being in a metropolitan area, you can't have somebody in the back of your police car at 2 o'clock in the morning who you don't know without proper protocols. I mean, I get all those things, but they've been great partners. So this is what we've done, and they've been great partners in doing this. We got funding for 4 crisis clinicians, staff clinicians, who will work in the evenings and on the weekends. They'll be housed in the police department. We have one on board, one's coming January 4th. We've been really beating the bushes. So if you know anybody that likes this work, crisis type work, and they've got a clinical background, we'd love to hear from them. And they go with the police officer to the site, and they evaluate the student right there, and they make a decision. Often they can say to the student, you know what, this is not a crisis. This is not something that needs you to go to the hospital. You can go back and sleep in your own bed tonight. We'll talk in the morning. We've also purchased a special van. It's not a police car, it's unmarked, and it's equipped so that students don't have to be handcuffed to be put in the back of it. And often the clinician now will travel with the student to the emergency room. We've developed relationships with the local hospitals. I was a little surprised. We contacted the 5 or 6 hospitals that are local to our area. They're in a metropolitan area where there emergency rooms, if you've ever been in an emergency room, they're flooded, right? But they really wanted to talk to us about our students and about a relationship where if we're bringing somebody in, we're talking with them about what happens. And that's way better than what was going on before with someone who was unknown. We've hired 2 care managers who track the student, communicate with them, maybe communicate with the parents or other significant people who are involved that need to know. And they also care for the student when they come back, so they get integrated back into the academic environment, and they're in touch with our mental health people as they go forward. So that's our new system of care. We've got 2 clinicians now on board. We got 2 more to go. This is in the field of a kind of a collection, a small collection of universities around the country that have gotten that stage. Not what I say is gratitude toward our campus for giving us the money to put this in place for those students who are at the most critical edge of the care that we provide. The last thing I want to mention on counseling, because we don't want to go on too long, but these are exciting developments. We've hired 3 embedded clinicians. And so we have a counseling center with 42 clinicians at our Shoemaker who both provide remote and face-to-face therapy. But through the provost office, that we've been given funding for 3 pilot clinicians who are embedded in colleges. One's in the College of Engineering, one's in the College of Information, and the other is shared between the School of Public Policy and the College of Journalism. And they're located there. And so they've spent the fall figuring out how to work an embedded process. They've been consulting with the faculty there. They've been developing relationships with academic advisors and administrative staff and understanding what the deans in those colleges really understand about their population. They're now getting ready to move into providing direct clinical services. That really wasn't where we wanted to start. College of Engineering is 5,000 students. You have 1 person over there. That's not going to do that. I mean, we still need the counseling center. That's where the source is. But now you've got a counselor who's in the environment of engineering, understanding the kind of culture, the kind of issues of stress that are different there versus our humanities, and they can provide special work there. They're doing outreach programming. The young man over in public policy just did a yoga studio for the public policy people, which was well received. So prevention and outreach work is going on as well. I only mentioned the 4 colleges because that's all we got funding for. So if this goes well, and right now everything says it's going well, then the question is, can we expand that program? Can the provost, and others, find a way in a limited budget environment, frankly, to move forward with more? But right now it's a nice program that's working well for us. We'll stop there. That's Counseling Center. The health center, health center is a pretty big operation. We get about 30,000 clinical visits a year there. And by the way, on Counseling Center, about 20% of the students that we're seeing are graduate students. So I looked at every area to see how many of the students coming in were graduate students, and I'll let you know what that is. For the health center, about 30,000 clinical visits, about 28% of our visits are graduate students. It's a fairly robust service. You may have used it. They charge insurance. I know there's a fee on the table that I know Michael's been involved in, and you're going to talk about later. That's your deliberation about. But the medical operation is fairly robust. It's seeing graduate students in proportion, sort of to their population on campus, in both medical services and behavioral health services, which is where our psychiatrists are and our psychiatric nurse practitioners. Our substance use intervention treatment program is seeing a little bit less. I got the number of 7% of graduate students being seen by them. I hope we can expand that. We just hired a physician from Johns Hopkins. Her name is Rachel Alinsky. She's quadruple board certified. So if anybody's in the medical arena, I mean, she's board certified in addiction medicine, adolescent medicine, internal medicine, and pediatrics. She was a star at Hopkins. And she wanted to come here because she wanted to get out of the research environment, get into a clinical setting, work directly with students, and just do help. And so she's really upgraded our substance use intervention treatments. So if you know a graduate or undergraduate, but if you know a graduate student who's suffering from some kind of substance abuse issue, we've really upped that game. So I'd really encourage you to help them get over there and see Dr. Alinsky and the kind of programs they're putting on. About our student health insurance program. I looked into that. About 1,470 graduate students are in the program now. That's out of about 5,000 students who've elected to take up SHIP. Now, I know a number of those students are international students, and that's a way for them to ensure that it's an insurance policy that's accepted by the campus, and it provides free access to the healthcare. And I know that's been an issue that you all have talked about before as well. We have a health promotion and wellness services program. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with them, but they provide meditation services. They provide mental health first aid training. They do a lot of outreach. That's a really nice unit. They're very competent, compassionate people. So again, I think that's one of those operations that I track their numbers a little bit too. Graduate students, 12% of mental health first aid training, about 20%, over 20% use the meditation work. The sexual health work, including STI testing, about 17%. So the numbers are good, but again, I'm not sure how many people know about those services. So more ways to figure that out would be great. Accessibility disability services. That's been an area that's been climbing. And here's the first, sort of pause on that. 3 years ago, we had 5 people. Now, there's a history there. I can't tell you what it was because they didn't report to me more than 4 years ago, but 5 people. Patty Perola came and said, that's ridiculous. I said, yes, that's ridiculous. Dr. Pines and the provost and others agreed, that is ridiculous. We now have 27 people. So that's been the growth in accessibility disability services on the campus. Now, what I would say in that picture is that if I look 5 years ago, we had a department that was just completely overwhelmed and completely insufficient to provide the service. We now have a department that is staffed better and able to provide more care. And of course, there are issues in that arena. And so it's another territory where I welcome, people to either talk to me or we can put you in touch with the director, Tessa. But there's no question that there's been a sea change in the kind of work they've been able to do, the wait time decreased in terms of getting seen for initial registration. So all those things have improved. At the same time, I will tell you, last year they did 15,000 tested accommodated tests. 15,000. It was about a 17% increase over the year before, and I believe it was about a 5% increase over the year before. So what's been scaling are the number of students, rightly so, getting accommodated testing, right? And the number of students who are registered has been climbing. I think it climbed about 5% last year. It climbed about 5% the year before. We're about 3,014 or so, about 8% of our population. Across the country, students who have the right to get those kinds of accommodations, I think is estimated to border upwards around 20% if every student sought that care. So, the staffing will grow and the demand will grow. And so it's an area, particularly in the graduate world, where I feel like it's a difficult world because, the intersection or complication between rightful accommodations and what I would call academic policies and academic requirements conflict. And so you've got academic programs, sort of worrying about the way to keep accreditations and licensures and sort of equitable processes related to academics. And you've got ADS and students who are sort of trying to figure out the right kinds of accommodations. That's my sort of more distant, uninformed, I'm not an expert, picture of what I see. But the work is growing. So again, we can certainly talk more about that, or you can be in touch with me directly about that as well. I'm going to mention RecWed just because I think recreational activity, by the way, physical activity borders with sleep in its benefit for our mental health and well-being. I mean, it literally, physical activity can border the same level of efficacy as medication when it comes to depression. So, we actually write prescriptions. We'll write prescriptions for a student to get free personal training over at RecWell because we know how beneficial it is, right? And so they're running sleep campaigns over there and doing other things. Now, the graduate student use, I got the numbers, about 15% of our total use. That's okay. I mean, I think graduate students are more busy, frankly. I think your lives are more complicated. I think the ability to get over there and do things is harder. But if there's more we can do or things we can do differently, I think we'd love to consider what that might be because we know how important physical activity is for everybody. I've heard about the pickleball tournament. I don't play pickleball, but I understand lots of people do, and the more graduate students sort of love it. It's great. There's been driving range events, and there's tubing coming up in the spring. Maybe you could take advantage of that. And I've gone over to see the badminton courts. I'm not sure if you've done that, but the badminton courts over there are well used. We took space away from basketball, made them badminton courts, and the surprising population really are international graduate students that are there, and they're socializing and they're playing badminton, and there are a number of students that are really good. So if you want to see a good badminton tournament, go over there. So again, things we can do, let us know, but that's what we're trying to do is create more activity in that area. I know that Mary Kate, I believe, the associate director over there is coming to see you in the spring. She's a fantastic person. So I look forward to what you have there. Last thing I'm going to mention to you is just in the mental health and well-being area, again, we spent 1.5 years doing the mental health task force. We learned a lot. I would say to some extent, surprisingly learned a lot about the distinction and the unique nature and experience of graduate students versus undergraduates, when often graduate students will say on this campus, you know what, we're kind of a hidden population. You say students, and what you really mean are undergraduate students, and we look at the service and they seem catered to undergraduate students. So what's the deal, right? So I think a lot of that was coming through loud and clear for us, and we were passing that on to people we know. It's not just about mental health, it's about lots of things we were hearing about. Mental health and well-being, like I could say that and we could have a conversation. We could talk about, counseling, but we also heard a lot about advisee-advisor relationships. We heard a lot about, financial and food insecurity, and we heard a lot about housing challenges. We heard a lot about, in master's programs, the difficulty of career pathways, things like that. So we heard a lot about what was troubling people, even though they didn't fully fit in what I would call the wheelhouse of mental health, sort of formally. But we certainly shared all that and passed it on. And part of the more extended institutional network of people we talked to, like the provost office and faculty affairs and others, the graduate school for certain. We've conveyed and talked about all these things. So we're in the mix of at least conveying all those things to them as well. Just one note on this area of mental health and well-being. Across the country, and this includes graduate and undergraduate students, in the end, about 12.5 to 13% of students are seen in a clinical setting. So that means on our campus, to reverse that, 88% or 87%, right, are not actually being seen in a clinical setting. Yet when we talk about stress and distress and difficulty, we know it's far more extensive than the people that are able to get to a mental health professional or clinician. So to think about ways to create preventative work and outreach and better care that helps everybody are things that we think about and we like to continue to sort of cultivate and develop on the campus. So that's something I'd love to find some future time, maybe in the spring, to work with those in the GSG that would love to participate. We've had great involvement in the past. I mean, Autumn Perky was fantastic. I love the Vara. I did talk to Dr. Joshi about the embedded counselors, and he did say that while they've been getting their feet down and doing great work this fall semester, they're now going to begin opening up for more direct clinical care for students, and they're going to figure out advertising and communication methods so students in the colleges are aware that they're available as a resource. So thank you for that recommendation, and hopefully we can get there with that as well. I think the last thing I wanted to show them that mental health website just to see if they had seen it, because we just produced it. Is that something I can do real quickly?
Absolutely. You should be able to share your screen.
Okay, fantastic. The reason I want to show this to you is that we just developed this. We launched it in the early fall semester. It's a mental health and well-being portal. It's as comprehensive as we can make it. This is the landing page. It's mentalhealth@umd.edu. And what I'm looking for from you is whether you're aware of it, you find it useful, and things you think we can do. If we think about a portal where people can go, to some extent, that is limited, but whatever it can do, can we make the best use of it? So, by the way, the Center for Healthy Families is one of those hidden jewels on campus, right? They'll see families. So going to the counseling center is fine, but if you have a family and a partner, you can go there, and for a very graduated, modest stipend cost, you can see a counselor in your whole family environment. The students section is here, and we try to ensure that all the services that were here are for undergraduate and graduate students, because we heard this issue loud and clear and right away about, I'm in crisis, I need counseling, need to see a doctor, I'm concerned about my drug use, I need help with sexual assault or relationship violence, or I'm unsure. Just right up front to make sure people can get access to the services they need. And then lots of resources that, by the way, again, are for everybody. There's a couple of services that are actually targeted for undergraduates. We label them that way so that they're very clear. And then what we just made sure to do is, this was slowing down. We decided to create a section exclusively for graduate student resources. And this, again, was coming out of graduate students who are saying this would help them and this would make sure that they understood the kind of services we had and resources. And so that's what this site is. I mean, and so it's targeted, for graduate students, basically only. So what I'd love to hear over time is, does anyone find the site useful? Do you think it is a comprehensive place that we can direct people to based on what they need? And what would you suggest we do to make it better? We launched it quickly. We got it done. We'd love to continue to enhance it. We're also building an app that represents sort of a different way to. I'm going to stop because I think I'm getting close to my time and I don't want to take up much more time with that. So, okay, that's my presentation. Reactions about anything?
As always, just raise your hand and then introduce yourselves with your name and then your program. Thank you, Dr. Kelly.
Sure. I didn't watch the text message chat, so if I missed anything, please just let me know. Okay.
Nora.
Hi, Dr. Kelly. I'm Nora. I am a PhD epidemiology representative. And I wanted to say thank you. I don't really have any questions other than I'm aware of what the counseling center has been doing, and that's really, the work is amazing. It's one of the coolest things I've seen for supporting students on campus. And I think other schools will look to us as a model because of that. And so that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Nora. Thank you for sharing that.
Other questions and comments? Michael, go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Kelly. Thank you so much for speaking with us. I guess I just wanted to flag and say that I appreciate you bringing up, even though it's not, as you said, traditionally in the wheelhouse of mental health, ideas of food insecurity amongst students. As I'm sure you know, the like recent, I think it was like 2023-24 campus survey about like student like food access and well-being came out and showed that what is it, like 27% of our students are food insecure, and one of the risk factors that they found was actually being a graduate student makes you more likely to experience this. So I think it's really important that in all of our mental health efforts, obviously like accessing mental health services, like as you mentioned, physical activity, these things are key, but getting your basic needs met is like, the baseline. So yeah, I appreciate your work in this area. And I don't know if things like the campus pantry in any way fall under your wheelhouse. I don't think they do, but I'm just curious if you can speak a little bit to how you see these things intersecting on campus.
Thank you, Michael. And I hope everybody knows what you know, right? I mean, the extent to which when we talk about the stresses and difficulties, I mean, just getting food. I saw some statistics from Health and Promotions, just FYI, they do meditation, and they did some meditations where they provided lunch. And the percent of graduate students shot up for the meditations that included lunch, right? Just people coming because to get food. I mean, that's, you just have to pause about that and think, okay, what do we do about that? I can tell you that Patty Perillo, if you've not had a chance to meet our Vice President, Patty Perillo, she wears this passionately. She cares a lot about it, and she genuinely is working hard. We're moving forward with an essential needs center. It's a consolidation of services for those in most desperate straits, but includes a lot around the pantry and about food. And so that expansion and the development efforts to raise money for it, I know are robust. It's not in my wheelhouse directly. I hear it because I sit over here in the Vice President's office. I could say more, but I don't want to go into territory I don't know more expertise about. But yeah, that's for sure. Thank you for bringing that up.
Any other questions, comments, concerns about Dr. Kelly's work?
Could I bring up one more thing since I have like 3 minutes left? Okay.
Absolutely.
I want your questions, but here's my question. We love, like, I think Dr. Roth, Steve Roth, and I would love to, in the spring semester, look more broadly at more steps we can take related to health and well-being among graduate students and other populations as well. But we want to do that, and so if any of the members of the GSG, and like I said, Autumn Perky, she was fantastic working with us last year, and Vera's been very, supportive and informed this year with us. And the year before that, Joy Havoc, I'm not sure if you know him, he was very supportive of us. And I hired Amy Rappaport, if you know Amy, to help us with the task force. She used to be the GSG president, and she brought an insightful, really blunt, frank look at the graduate student experience on campus, and that really helped us understand it. So it's what we want to do. So I would say in the spring semester, if there's any GSG members who want to be connected to that work, and you can decide whether you've got the time, and if you hear what we're doing and think it's worth your while to be connected to it, just let us know that you're interested in knowing what we might do so you can make that decision. But I want to figure out how to connect graduate students very directly to what we do in the spring as we put together work groups and ideas about moving forward. Listen, that's it for me. I know you guys have a busy schedule on Friday, so listen, I will get out of your way. But thank you for the time. I really appreciate you letting me come in and talk with you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kelly. Everyone, please join me in giving Dr. Kelly a round of applause for joining us and taking time out of his schedule to meet with us.
Well, Devon, right, thank you. And Devon, right back at you. I know what an advocate and leader you are on the campus. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Hi, Simon. Bye-bye.
Perfect. Again, that was Dr. Warren Kelly. If anyone has any anything they want to address to him, I CC'd his email to our when I sent out the agenda last night. So you all have access to his email. Our next guest speaker just joined us. So we are privileged to have Simone Warwick Bell, graduate academic counselor, join us. One of the most knowledgeable individuals and advocates for us as graduate students that I know. So what I'm going to briefly ask for is just call for a motion to move to Simone's presentation.
Motion to move to presentation.
Seconded.
Perfect. Simone, the floor is yours.
Hey, thank you. Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. I'm going to talk kind of about what I do and what I did this semester, and then some things that I'm hoping to do in the next semester, as well as kind of further down the line. At any point, if you have any questions whatsoever, I'm more than happy to address that. You're welcome to cut me off. I'm going to share my screen because if I don't, I will forget stuff. And that is how I know my brain is working. So, okay. So, I'm going to slideshow. Okay. So first things first, thank you for having me. I'm always happy to talk to graduate students. It's a big part of my job. And I'm going to talk about kind of like my role, fall programs, programs that I glance for the spring, and then future big aspirations that I would love to do. I don't know if they'll come to fruition, but just kind of giving you an inside peek at my mind. So mental health is super important to, graduate students. There's definitely been some lasting effects of the pandemic. Some of this is impacted by mentorship, role expectations, financial burdens, and basically this is all from the University of Maryland Mental Health Task Force. Warren Kelly, who was just here, he led the task force with the dean of the School of Public Health, Boris, and basically what it did was it looked at mental health distress as an epidemic campus-wide for faculty, staff, and students. And I had a pleasure of being on that task force as well. And a lot of the things that we took from that, I have tried to use some of the findings from the task force report to inform my programming and working with graduate students. So about me and my role, I work in the graduate school. I am not part of the counseling service. I used to be part of the counseling service, but I resigned in 2020 and came over to academic affairs. So now I work in the graduate school. I provide assistance for navigating mental health resources. So for grad students, sometimes they're like, I don't know where to go. Do I go to the counseling center? Do I go to faculty staff assistance program? What is behavioral health service? I help them do that. Sometimes students need to take a leave of absence. I review that process, application, return with graduate students, and I can also review parental leave accommodations, and I help students find therapists via warm referrals. And if you're like, what's a warm referral? Basically, we'll meet, we'll go over your preferences, availability, insurance, and then I will contact providers on your behalf, confirm they are accepting people that match with what you're looking for, and then I'll send you the list, and all you have to do is make your appointment. This is absolutely free, so please take advantage of it. I'm always happy to help students, and as a therapist, I want to make sure everyone goes to therapy because it's super great. I also help grad students review policies that assist with mental health and wellness, whether it be time away from duties. What else? There's time away from duties, absence due to illness, which is separate from the leave and separate from parental leave. But basically, I want to make sure you're aware of everything that might be helpful to you if you're in a difficult situation. I am available to meet in person or virtually. This is my direct email and phone number, and I'm located in the Lee building on the second floor. I'm in the grad school, so people are usually like, where are you? I'm in the grad school. Essentially, if you come to the second floor, check in at the window next to the elevator, then you will find me. And like I said, I'm always happy to meet students, and I try to make myself incredibly available to support students. So one big thing about my job, I do mental health programming. I recognize some of your faces from attending these programs. For the 2024, I had the pleasure of doing restorative rest sessions, which were yoga, a sound bath. These sessions are really geared towards supporting your mental health and wellness through restorative rest. So doing nothing. There's no talking when you come to these. You don't have to talk if you don't want to talk. If you just want to come and just do yoga and grab some food, you can do that. The Eat, Grow, and Learn series was geared towards helping students build community. And the goal was just to have students come, talk, connect with each other, learn about stuff from each other, and enjoy a free lunch. And the graduate student circle sessions are virtual. These sessions are more resource-based, so making sure you're aware of things like how to access accommodations through ADS, how to take a leave of absence, understanding how to avoid burnout. The topics vary. This semester was my first semester doing wellness course. We did a 3-part imposter syndrome course, which was super great. It was facilitated by Dr. Shaylin Blanchard through the Counseling Center. She did an amazing job. Basically, the session was once a month, and students could come, learn how to deal with imposter syndrome. Each session was different, and every session included a free lunch. I think food is a big thing, and I'll get to that later. And then basically I also did the Wellness Ambassador program. This program is open to graduate students who are really passionate about wellness and or mental health. Basically, you can apply and potentially receive some level of training and funding to do your own wellness workshops within your academic unit or your academic community, whether it be like your cohort, or if you have an assistantship group with like you're part of a bunch of assistantships in your department, then you could do that as well. But basically, we offer that. I applied for the Do Good grant, fingers crossed. My hope is to help students basically have that. We launched that last semester. We had about 6 people apply, and we were able to give 2 students up to $1,000 for their own wellness programs. The money went to the students department, and the department assists the students with spending the money within the budgetary policies and guidelines. Programs are available as requested. I've had BGSU request programs. I've had academic programs request programs. This is technically a requested program. So if you are kind of like, hey, I want to do something with a student group, or I want to do something within my department, I'm always happy to come out, whether it be virtual or in person. If it's a topic that I feel comfortable talking about, then I'm more than happy to do it. If it's a topic that is not necessarily under my umbrella, then I'm always happy to be a bridge and refer you to the appropriate person. So some things are adjusting, of course. I'm a big proponent of you live and you learn, and some things are going to be adjusting as we head into the spring. So the graduate student circle sessions traditionally has been bi-weekly. It's virtual. It started in the pandemic. And as we shift to a return to campus model, and also some of these, no one comes to them, and I'm like, cool, I can just sit here, but I don't like really wasting my time unless I'm reading. But the sessions will transition from bi-weekly to monthly for the spring, and I'm going to see how that goes. Some of the topics will be leave of absence, parenting in graduate school, harm reduction for cannabis. Maryland is one of a dozen states in the US where weed is legal. There are about 2 shops within walking distance of campus where you can go and buy recreational legal marijuana. So basically, I want to make sure people know about harm reduction if you devil in that. So that's kind of the goal of that session. Restorative rest, my plan is to continue. We'll have 2 sessions. I'm working on reserving a space now. The facilitator has been reserved. We have the dates. The owner of Sankofa Yoga in Laurel, Maryland is going to facilitate a sound bath and a yoga session. The Eat, Grow, and Learn series will continue. There'll be 2 sessions in the spring. ODI actually has a similar event called Snackademics. I talked to their GA Oak Long, and we're trying to make sure that people are aware of it, but also kind of program so that we're not kind of programming simultaneously. I'm trying to seek a bigger space. Essentially, we have the conference room in Lee. If you attended any of the Eat, Grow, and Learn sessions, you may have noticed there was nowhere to sit because the room is only meant for so many people. So I'm working on finding a bigger space. The challenge of space is that if you do it in the stamp, you have to buy food from the stamp. And this is my opinion, but I don't love all the food in the stamp. So the goal is to keep the food options open for everybody. So I'm just mindful of that, but I'm working on that. And then other cool things for the spring, the wellness courses will definitely continue. I'm working on finalizing the topic. The tentative topics are executive functioning. I have a meeting today about planning that. And basically this session is geared towards people who may have ADHD or struggle with time management. The goal of this session is not to tell you how to like plan out your planner, but I think the goal is to look at our barriers in terms of perception and overestimation of time management. A lot of people who struggle with executive functioning just really have a different perception of time. It's not necessarily that you aren't aware of it, you aren't aware of like how many minutes are in the hour, but it's more like if something takes 2 hours, you assume it may take an hour, or you may think, oh, it'll just take me 30 minutes. Or maybe you look at a syllabus and say, oh, 6 things, I could do 1 thing each day in a week and I'll be fine. Food will be provided. Some other topics, loneliness in graduate school, finding community. A lot of students who come to Maryland are transplants, so they're coming from the Midwest, the South, the West Coast, and it can kind of feel really lonely. I was fortunate. I went to an in-state school for graduate school, and I was from Maryland, but I pretty much was okay if I didn't make a lot of friends because like, well, I'm home. But for some folks who are, who are new to the area, they're kind of unsure about how to do that. So me and GSL are in conversation to partner up and prepare something. And then the last session is a really popular session. I've done this before, but basically the goal is to have difficult dialogues. This is more geared towards how to have intense conversations with your advisor or your PI, or if you have a supervisor or a colleague, kind of thinking of best practices to receive feedback, but also to say, if feedback is not helpful, what can we do? And thinking around that. This session has been really popular before when we've done it. I've never done it in person. I've always done these virtual. So the goal is for each topic, it'll be 2 in a month, and then the next month will be a different topic. And then the wellness ambassadors, it's going to continue for the spring. Applications are due in February. I'm looking forward to it. And we've had about 10 applicants. And this is some of the stuff I'm looking for this spring. And then future big aspirations. These may not happen in my lifetime, but this is what I'm aiming for. I'm hopeful to develop a potential graduate pathways cohort. This will kind of be looking at the graduate pathways. For those who aren't familiar with the graduate pathways, every pathway is geared to something different that pertains to your success as a graduate student, whether it be communicating and leading, engaged, driving, connecting, career, mentorship, all these really helpful things that give you this rich experience, but thinking about it from the sense of how can we support you from the time that you start at Maryland until you finish in terms of best practices, checking in, wraparound services, things like that. Thinking about a proactive retention program. This is kind of gaining more insight into the hidden curriculum. Essentially, when I talk to students who leave Maryland, what I've heard is that sometimes students feel like they've had a bait and switch where they go to orientation, they talk to faculty, they've talked to students in front of faculty, and then they come to Maryland and then they feel like this program was not what I was promised. The goal is to kind of like see what we can do to improve that. What can we do to improve kind of the bridge of coming from undergrad to the area or coming from an outside area to Maryland? What can we do to improve, making sure students know where to live, or make sure they know best practices for finding housing, things like that. I would love to have a funding resource for childcare stipend and housing stipend. The cost of living in this area kicks me in the teeth. It's a lot. it's really expensive to live in Maryland. It's expensive to live in College Park. And I feel that, I hear that from students. I understand this as an adult. I live in Laurel, Maryland. I've had relatives ask me, why don't you just buy a house in College Park? And I'm like, are you gonna give me money? So that's real. I would love to have a housing stipend. I would love to have graduate housing available for folks that is really good. Graduate Hills is 100 years old, but something new and updated would be super great in supporting that. One of the things that may happen sooner is kind of things around food. Basically, we want to make sure we continue to support the campus pantry. I'm working with the dean right now in terms of the food insecurity report around potentially what can we do. I would love to have more satellite refrigerators on campus that are stocked with food that can be grab and go for students. Basically communal fridges. I hate wasting food. It's one of those things that really bothers me. I grew up as a food insecure kid. So whenever people throw away food, I'm like, it could be different. We could do something different. So I want to make sure we can figure out something to do that is aligns with policy, but also something that might be convenient for students. So I think me and the dean are going to be talking about that in the spring. But these are kind of some of the lofty things that I would love to do within the next probably 3 to 5 years. And some of them are things that may not happen. Stipends are hard to come by. To apply for funding for support, there's a lot of stipulations. I actually almost applied for a childcare grant, and just the amount of work with applying for the grant, essentially no one was able to kind of help me in terms of like supporting it. So I'm a unit of one, so there's only so much I can do, but I'm always looking to build relationships with campus partners and to be a bridge in that way too. That's really everything that I wanted to talk about. I'm always happy to talk with graduate students. I'm always, here and present. For those who attended my wellness programs, we did the wellness swag bag giveaways this week. I try to think of unique ways to support students. For those who won a wellness swag bag, we were fortunate to be able to give away a lot of cool stuff. We had gift cards from Marathon Deli, Crazy Kebab, Soul Spice, Bagels and Grinds, Potomac Pizza, and Board and Brew. We had some cool items, Bluetooth headphones, a portable charging battery, and all this cool stuff. I can't buy everything for students. I couldn't buy like 100 of these. The dean would not fund that. But we were able to give away 5 swag bags to folks who entered the raffle. And I just always trying to think of unique ways to support students, but also be an ear for folks in a sense of hey, I have an idea. What can we do to develop this or a program? And yeah, that's all I have. And I'm going to stop my share in case folks have any questions, concerns, or, protests or anything at all. I'm happy to answer. Yes, Nora.
Hi, I'm Nora. I'm an epidemiology PhD student, representative in the GSG. And I had a question, and then I had to say what my introduction was, and then I forgot. It had something to do with the housing subsidies that students applied for last year.
Yes.
Where are they? Did students get them? I don't know. I haven't heard anything.
So the housing subsidies that applied, so what I saw, so I remember getting the information, I shared it with so many students. What happened was that they had this many subsidies available, this many people applied. So I think they had about 125 and thousands of people applied. It is one of those things where they were overwhelmed with the demand. I don't think they were prepared for how many students are like, housing is really expensive in College Park. So I think there were only so many people that were selected. I have been really vocal about the fact that the cost of living kind of calculator that financial aid gives programs, I don't know another better. I don't have a good word. It's shit.
Yeah,
it's
because
not.
it was through the College Park Council.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can send you an article. I can send an
Yeah,
article
I found the most recent stuff from like October.
They were
but
over.
I don't.
Yeah, they it was in, hold on. they basically shut it. They were overwhelmed. So I think they kind of like
Yeah.
reached their mass and then they had to turn it off.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because they said it was going to be a lottery for only 120 students, and then twice as many graduate students that it could be, I think 4 times as many graduate students it looks like applied to it than
Mhm.
could be it given to. So yeah, I mean, choosing by lottery isn't hard. It's not like they're going through the applications and deciding who's more deserving, you know? So I'm wondering
Mhm.
like I wonder, yeah, who to talk to follow up to make sure people are the few people, the 120.
So I think potentially the best person to talk to is Brian Watkins. He oversees students in need. He may have more insight in terms of like what's going to be happening next in that process, but I'm on kind of like part of his committee with addressing students who may be in need. But they are just restarting that process. It previously was fostering Terps and now transitioned to something else. But Brian Watkins may have more insight than me.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I think I can say something about it because actually I won the lottery, so I think they were already given out. I mean, we received the email. I received the email like I'd say 2 or 3 weeks ago about being selected, but then I haven't heard anything yet. And I even reached out to the lady that sent me an email from the College Park center, whatever it was, but she has not replied. So I have not gotten my subsidy yet, but they should have already been given out, like assigned to at least people.
Mm-hmm. Congratulations to winning.
Yeah, lucky every now and then.
Yeah. Any other questions I can address or any other thoughts, reactions to anything I shared or anything whatsoever? And if you are like me, where you don't have questions and people will put you on the spot, but as soon as someone gets off, you have more questions, you're always welcome to email me. Yes, Sarth?
Hey Simon, thanks for the presentation there. It was truly helpful. Sorry, my camera is actually having some glitch, so I can't turn it on. So my question was that since I am an international student here at UMD, I joined this fall for my graduate program. So yeah, are the housing subsidies available for international graduate students as well, or are they available for only resident students?
I'm not entirely sure. I think it would be helpful to ask Brian Watkins.
They
Go
are for
ahead.
students that live in College Park and in College Park only, and it doesn't matter if you're an international student or not. People were upset somehow for some reasons that don't really make sense to me. But no, international students are very much included in the housing subsidy. You just have to live in College Park, which is the downside.
Thank you, Nora. I appreciate you.
Oh, all right. Thanks a lot, Nara. Thanks, Aman.
Yes. The housing in this area is not my favorite. I've looked at apartments. I'm trying to track some of the new things that are coming. The apartment that's being built that replaced all 3 of the hotels is meant to be affordable housing, but when I last checked the Hyattsville Wire, hadn't released the costs of those apartments yet. I've also been in talks with the dean about making sure we have policies in place and making sure that graduate legal aid is proactive. If they're doing anything around how to get out of a lease, if you're in a not so great living situation, what can we do to make sure that people are protected and proactive, especially for those who are new to the area? Any other questions or thoughts or anything I can address about wellness, mental health, or anything I do in the graduate school or leave of absence, anything whatsoever?
Anyone have anything that Simone could provide clarity on. Any concerns about? Nora, go ahead.
Yes.
I actually have a sort of interesting, I don't know, I'll just tell you the scenario that keeps happening is in our graduate student handbook for my program, epidemiology, PhD, we are assigned a GA contract for 20 hours a week, and that is equivalent to 24 units.
Mm-hmm.
1 credit of graduate student coursework is equivalent to 5 hours of work outside the class, based on this kind of unit to hour to whatever. If we were working 20 hours a week, we can get 10 credits of tuition remission, which means we can do 50 hours of classes. If it's 5 hours for 1 credit, 50 hours of classes, plus 20 hours of TAing or GAing, is somewhere around 70 hours of work a week. And so I'm just wondering, I get feedback from certain professors where it seems to be the norm to be working 70 hours a week. But then that leaves no time to do another job to make actual money. And so I'm wondering, you know, especially for international students, I don't find that sustainable. I don't do it. I am going to take 5 years in my PhD program instead of 4. And I'm just wondering, like, 70 hours of work a week is doable for how many ever semesters you want to do it if you want to do it, but it's not really sustainable unless you have someone else helping you with your bills. So I'm just, you know, I just think about this and wonder, how can we make this easier for graduate students where they're not putting themselves in positions where they're trying to finish early but can't support themselves, and then they have to take longer to support themselves. And yeah, that's all. Thank you.
I think about that too. So like the previous dean, Stephen Fetter, we had a conversation about money in terms of how much grad students are paid. And the way that he framed it was we pay our grad students the most in comparison. And I was like, according to who?
Compared to who?
He basically was comparing it to the Big Ten. So Michigan, all these places, but I'm like, the cost of living is not comparable. So this is kind of where I get into a conversation about kind of like the cost of living calculator that they present to faculty. So the cost of living calculator that they present, I've taken pictures of it during presentations and I've sent it to people. I'm like, this is absolute bullshit, because it doesn't include it's not realistic. I'm like, who is spending $100 a month on groceries unless you're eating nothing but rice and beans, and at a certain point you need a vegetable? It's not realistic, and I've complained about that to the dean. I'm very clear that like even with the money that people are getting paid, even if someone says, well, we're the most for the Big Ten, inflation is kicking everybody in the teeth right now. It truly is. You cannot budget your way out of poverty. It is expensive to be poor, because if you get sick, if something happens to you, even like when students take a leave of absence, I'm very clear with them, like, hey, before you take a leave of absence, come and talk with me, because I want to make sure you're aware of the implications of it. I have had the heartbreaking conversation with multiple students who've taken leave of absence mid-semester and realized their tuition was going to get charged back because they didn't know that. And I'm very clear, like, let's figure out a way to avoid this. I am all about find me a loophole. Find me a loophole. Let's figure out a way to do this, because the amount of money it's still not adequate. And even when people say that, like, well, they're paid a lot in comparison. I'm like, I understand what you're saying, but if we hold the calculator up to like the cost of living in this area, it is no match. And I think a lot of the framework of graduate students is basically like, oh, they probably have a partner or they have a family who's giving them support during this time. And that's a whole separate conversation for the privilege framework of thinking that a lot of this was designed in the sense of like, oh, this person's going to come here from a family who has a pedigree of degrees in academia. They're going to be supported. Like, I think when I was considering going back to school, I was talking to a psychologist and she said, oh, it was easy to pay for it. I sold one of my homes. And I was like, one of your homes? You have more than one? Ma'am, don't talk to me ever again. So I say that with the reality of that I don't think 70 hours is feasible. I'm a big proponent of take care of yourself. And this is going to be a part of your journey in a sense of grad school, but it's not meant to be your life. Do not be a martyr, you
It
know.
also shouldn't like negatively affect your health long term.
I agree.
And poverty does. Like there's
does.
evidence that it does. And when you do this for half a decade, 5 years is usually the minimum amount of time for a PhD. Sometimes you can get out in 3 or 4, but 5 to 7 is average, I feel. And that's a long time to be living off of a $28,000 stipend for 9.5 months.
It is, and some programs have higher stipends, some have lower, and the equity in it is telling, and that's kind of like it's way over my pay grade in terms of fixing it, but I've tried to do things that can supplement supporting students in the meantime. Pretty much, if you ever come to my program, Davian's been to a program, Michael's been to a program. I'm very much like, I'm going to order food and I'm going to order for the number of registrants. Typically, I don't really care if people come and take food. I'm not going to run you down the hallway like, you need to sit here. I have given away boxes of food because I know that this is a difficult situation for a lot of people. Is food the answer to all things? Absolutely not. But if there's ever something where you say, do you know of an affordable option for medicine? Do you know of an affordable option for dentistry? Do you know of an affordable option for this type of health issue? Can you have any recommendations? Then in doing that, I try my best to be supportive. Even for counseling, Maryland has a free counseling resource for those who are uninsured. And I try to make myself really aware of anything that might be free or low cost serving. Maryland has like a child care scholarship through the state. And basically I'm like, boom, like I put it on my website. And anything that's like really cost efficient, or if someone says, hey, I don't know how to do this or how to cook for this amount of money, then I'm very clear of like, hey, let me help you. Like I love cooking and I love cost efficient cooking. So pretty much I try my best, but I do understand this is a huge systematic issue more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Simone, for joining us today. We truly do appreciate you.
Thank you. I'm always happy to be here. I hope everyone has a safe and restorative winter break. May you turn off your phones, unlink your email accounts, veg out, and understand that rest is not the reward, but it's what we need. I hope you all sleep in. If you're a vegetable and you watch nothing but shitty TV, whether it be Bridgerton, whatever, enjoy it, feel no shame. I tell all my clients, if it's not illegal or harmful to another person, indulge, enjoy it. You know, do what makes you feel good. If it's Pokemon, games, whatever it may be, do it, enjoy it without shame. I am looking forward to watching cartoons and looking forward to Harley Quinn coming back to HBO. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Simone. Please join me in thanking Simone for taking her time to join us today.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And if you need my slides, just let me know or just send me an email if anyone has any follow-ups. Thanks.
Perfect.
Bye.
Thank you. Perfect. Awesome. Moving forward, we're going to quickly pivot into the VPFA's address. And in that address, we will be voting on some of these fee proposals that he's discussing, but it would more so be, there's no legislation associated with these votes. It's more so that we have an understanding of what our position is for what these fee increases are asking. So I'm just going to ask at this time for a motion to move to VPFA's address.
Motion to move to VPFA's event fund is fine Friday.
Seconded.
Perfect. Michael, the floor is yours.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Yeah, so I'm here to talk to you all about student fees, and I am joined by a wonderful guest, Reese Artero, who is president of Student Government Association. I will call on Reese in a couple minutes to talk about a particular fee, which is the sustainability fee. But before that, I just want to give like a little quick, like 1 or 2 slide presentation to y'all. So let me figure out how to do that. Oh yeah, sure. Here we go. Perfect. Cool. And you know what? Let me just share my account. All right, cool. So hopefully you can see everything. All right, cool. Oh my God. Oh my God. Sorry. Should start at the beginning. All right, here we go. Student fees. We are talking about, if you see FY26, that is just what they call this financial year for the 2025-26 school year. So we're talking about next school year. So the way student fees work at UMD is that, let's see. Okay, so every graduate student pays student fees, which are different from tuition. If you are a graduate assistant or your constituents are graduate assistants, which is about 40% of all grad students, a little bit less, graduate assistants don't pay tuition, but do pay fees. So if you have an assistantship, you are still on the hook for all of these fees. Okay, so each student fee has a committee associated with it, which votes to approve or reject the fee proposal. I didn't put the next step down, which I should have, which is that then all of the fees are given to the committee for the review of student fees, which votes whether to approve or deny the fee proposal, the increases for next year. So Vara, me, I believe Reese, and a few other folks serve on this committee, the committee for the review of student fees that I forgot to put in this presentation. But what I'm telling you now is that all the fee proposals that you're going to see that are associated with committees have already been approved by the committees. And so now I'm just curious if everyone, what we all as a body, what you all, oh, perfect. Thanks. Reese put in the chat that the Committee for the Review of Student Fees also has the Residence Hall Association and their fee coordinator serving as well. Thank you. Okay, perfect. So all of the like committees associated with these fees have already like voted to approve it. And the Committee for the Review of Student Fees that actually decides whether or not these fee increase proposals go through is meeting in January. So hence why I'm asking y'all now what you think about it. Okay, so there are 6 fees currently that every graduate student pays. These are the athletics fee, the shuttle bus fee, the student union fee for the stamp, the graduate student activities fee. And you might recall that you heard about this fee last time, and when we had the asynchronous Google Forms vote that was on there, that was approved, by the way. So the increase that we approved for the graduate student activities fee will now be forwarded to the CRSF, Committee for the Review of Student Fees. Okay, there's also the recreation services fee and the counseling center fee. The international student fee, which is something that international students pay, is not a part of this process, for better or for worse. It's just not. It gets set by a different process. And so that is not going to be a part of this discussion, although I did include its cost in some of the calculations that you'll see momentarily. So here it is. I made a chart. This is the end of my slides for you. Basically, you may have seen this chart. I emailed it out to everyone. Let me put the link in the chat. I should have like made a nice short link, but I didn't. So it's just this Google form, but it's been emailed to y'all a few times. So this chart, I tried to make it as like user-friendly as possible, but you know, okay. So the 6 fees currently that are being paid by students are at the top. I included the international fee of $125 a semester, just so you could see what the kind of percentage changes are. So the way that they list fees on the website is per semester. And then I just pulled those out into what they cost per year for folks. The athletics fee does not have a proposed increase. It stayed the same for, I don't know, 5 years or something. They're not increasing it. There is a little bit of an argument as to whether graduate students should pay an athletic fee because our kind of participation within athletics, going to games and things is rather limited. However, that's not something that can happen at the Committee for the Review of Student Fees meeting, but that is something that if folks are feeling passionate about, that GSG could write legislation if you don't think that going forward, graduate students should be responsible for the athletics fee, but that's not something that, because there's no proposed increases for this year, that's not something that I can advocate for at the Committee for the Review of Student Fees. Okay, but there are proposed increases for the shuttle bus, student union, graduate student activities, which we already voted on, recreation, and counseling center fees. You can see these fee proposals. I'm happy to go through them momentarily, what they are, but they're all fairly modest increases. Again, I will go through, but because Reese has generally decided to, or generously been able to join us today, I want to get to her first, and then we can get to the other fees. So in addition to the fees that currently graduate students already pay, there are proposals to introduce 2 new fees to graduate students this year. One is the health center fee, which you heard Dr. Marinopoulos speak about last month at our assembly meeting. And then the other one is the sustainability fee. And I popped in numbers from like the highest tier here, but Reese will explain it's not necessarily these amounts that are being proposed. So yeah, I guess I want to give the floor. I'll stop sharing my screen for the moment. And I want to invite Reese to speak about the sustainability fee, which is something that undergraduate students have been paying for the last few years, maybe even longer, but graduate students have not. And there are, particular proposals which might make it more relevant to us. And also, sustainability efforts on campus are important. So yeah, Reese, if you would like to speak about the sustainability fee and what this might mean for graduate students, we would love to hear from you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate it. I tried to make a very brief presentation, but obviously in being brief, I may miss some things, so please feel free to stop me at any point. I will say that this also has the backing of the Residence Hall Association as well, in the sense of what the overarching plan is, and I do have quite a few smaller proposals within the big proposal, and so I know it will get very confusing, so I ask for your patience as we go through this. Actually, really quickly, let me put in the chat, Michael, have you shared the other spreadsheet that I put together with them?
I have. I linked it on this big sheet, but I will just put the
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, sure. It's the table under the sustainability fee, but I will just pop that link in the chat too.
Thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciate that. Okay, perfect. So just to give you guys a little bit of context on what the student sustainability fee is, it was started in 2007 with an SGA undergraduate referendum. I can't say we've seen a more positive referendum than any time that we pass a sustainability referendum. I think it's one of those very bipartisan things that most people are actually at the undergraduate level very supportive, regardless of where they stand with other topics. And we implemented a staggered implementation plan. So it started at about, I want to say $7 and progressively reached up to 30 this year. Every time that we increase it, though, it does have to either go through a referendum or through the student body in the form of legislation to the Student Government Association. It's governed by the University Sustainability Council, which is overseen by the Office of Sustainability, and projects that they oversee must include a reduction to the campus greenhouse gas emissions, as well as renewable energy, energy efficiency, alternate transportation, reduce the amount of waste created or waste disposed while increasing waste diversion from landfills, minimizing water consumption while increasing water capture and reuse, create green spaces and sustainable landscapes, and encourage sustainable behaviors and integrate sustainability into teaching, research, and service at UMD. So it does not have to hit every single one of these bullet points here, but it is important that it does hit at least one and substantively. So the University Sustainability Council reviews projects endorsed by the Sustainability Fund Review Committee, which is the council, basically, and those can be supported by the undergraduate student sustainability fee, or it can be if they need to be supported to get external funding. So if you were trying to seek a grant or some sort, and you needed university backing, you would also go to the Sustainability Council as well to do that. With that in mind, it's important to look at what the committee's makeup is. And it's about 9 university admin, 1 at-large appointment, which is a faculty appointment, typically, 3 faculty appointments, 2-year terms, and then 2 undergraduate appointments. We'll talk about why I disagree that this is a predominantly administrative board, and so much so at another point. But the larger thing that I would like you to look at is that there's no graduate representation. And I've had multiple conversations with the chair of the Sustainability Council, Scott Lupin, who also leads the Office of Sustainability. And he has mentioned how the council, in the essence of the graduate students don't pay part of the fee, they give a lot of deference to undergraduate proposed projects, or those with large undergraduate support, which even includes declining graduate research projects, unless there's a large campus demonstrated benefit with undergraduate support, which is very difficult to get if you are doing a graduate research project. So it's something that you would have to get either like my support from or the legislation from the student body. And as far as I know, in recent years, that hasn't really been something that has occurred. In terms of direct benefits that I would love to point your attention to, a lot of it are GA ships throughout different projects and different proposals. This has been over the course of 3 or 4 years between fiscal year 21 to 24, looking at the university libraries, looking at conference fees for graduate students, as well as research. This was supported by undergraduates as well. The sustainability conference, and then virtual global sustainability internships, which was wages for PhD students. So over the course of the years, it's been about approximately 106,000, and they don't keep track of the number or the cost of projects that they don't approve, but I have it on the Office of Sustainability's authority that it is in a high number of like the high 100,000s. So like maybe like 200,000, or not high 100,000s, but like in comparison to this, about 200,000 to 300,000 worth of projects that may have gone to GA ships or other things that were direct benefits to the graduate body. Looking at kind of indirect benefits, I apologize, this was thrown together a little bit last minute, so it's not fully complete. But these are some of the things that benefit the campus community that maybe there's not a dollar amount that we can assign to it, but I think that it's really important to mention how these are all part of increasing and improving the sustainability of our campus as a whole, especially looking to the 2020 decarbonization plan and looking towards where we might be able to see other expansions in the sustainability sector on campus. So looking at bike and scooter parking expansion, community learning gardens, especially the ADA accessible raised bed renovation, expansion of glass cycling infrastructure, Terp to Terp restore, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. Empowering students through the sustainability engagement and leadership, future of sustainable food, empowering students through sustainability engagement and leadership, and Campus Creek restoration. So the bigger ask here is that we have seen, and I think you all, and I'm sure that Simone actually covered a good portion of this too, is that admin has not made the strides that I think we all would like to see from them in terms of essential needs. The Sustainability Fund is not only a center to fund projects that are like what we can do in the Chesapeake Bay and what we can do right in Campus Creek and things like that. It is an opportunity for us to demonstrate that essential needs are things that we would like to prioritize, and increasing the representation that we have on these different bodies and making sure that we all have a voice in it and that we can prioritize the things that we would like to prioritize. I have kind of a multi-step plan in which I would like to increase the sustainability fund, partially with graduate student fees, and also creating carve-outs in the pre-existing undergraduate fee to allow you all to have employment. So with the Terp to Terp reuse store and campus pantry kind of being separate, but employment in terms of like GA ships and the PhD wages that we discussed earlier, and expanding the opportunities for those to be funded through the sustainability fee. looking a little bit more towards as well, like funding graduate research projects that may also help improve employment rates post-grad as well. Looking towards, again, representation on these boards and on these bodies, and making sure that when it comes to projects that graduate students get the same representation and get the same deference as undergraduates do, and looking for more opportunities for campus improvement. Arguably, this is one of the most, I think, direct benefits in terms of fees. Like you guys were mentioning with the athletics fee, who the hell goes to football games that often? We won more games this year. But is it enough to put up with that $400 price tag every year? I think this is a small fee that ends up going into a lot of campus benefit that a lot of students, maybe you don't directly see it, but over time has a really large benefit overall, especially considering wanting to be stewards of the campus that we have and leaving a good legacy behind us in terms of sustainability. I would like to use the fee to also create carve-outs for Terp to Terp Reuse Store and create carve-outs for the campus pantry. Both have really only asked for employment. And so one of the things, if we do consider them having a carve out right now, if it's carved out the way that the fee stands, is that graduates would not be able to have those employment opportunities in Terp to Terp Reuse Store or in the campus pantry. Doesn't mean you all can't still use it, but in terms of having employment opportunities, it is an added benefit for you there as well. I recently went to the Sustainability Council and begged and pleaded on my hands and knees for them to create a carve out for Terp to Terp Reuse Store, and they ultimately declined. I am really not happy with that. And I think there's a really good opportunity for us to come back in full force to ask them to support this essential service. And again, it's one of those, why do we need to ask admin when it's our student sustainability fee? And I have, my own qualms with that. But I would really, really love to ask for your help in terms of advocating for these essential needs programs that we need now more so than ever as we deal with inflation, as we deal with navigating the number of things that GAs go through, that undergraduates go through. And we recently just also got a presentation from the Food Insecurity and Housing Affordability survey that they just put out. And food insecurity rates and housing insecurity rates are higher than they were last year, and they have continued to go up. And that's not a surprising trend. And even more so, I think it speaks to the fact that we owe it to ourselves and to our constituencies to be prioritizing the things that admin claims that they want to support, but that we should have the power to support on our own through our own funding and through our own means. And this is not to say that you guys can't propose your own other things as well within these fields. These are kind of just what my proposals are and kind of what I've seen, at least predominantly during the undergraduate side of it. So I definitely know that I miss a couple things when it comes to the graduate perspective. And so I hope that you understand that I am certainly not coming into this knowing that every single thing about graduates, and that I absolutely recognize the perspective that I have in being limited to what experiences you all have as well. And that I'm only speaking from how I can hope that it will impact you all as well. Looking towards what it will cost, everyone's favorite conversation. This is kind of where we see a little bit of balance in terms of what you guys would like to see. I was assuming a 25% indirect and direct benefit on the basis of there being 30K undergrads and 10K graduates, with that being about 25% of the overall body. That is something that we can obviously figure out, and it doesn't need to, again, it doesn't need to be like a hard implementation of these fees as you see here. I will arguably say though that in terms of like incorporating Terp to Terp and campus pantry, that is where it starts to get a little bit more expensive. But in terms of thinking about what things you guys can get out of the campus pantry and get out of Terp to Terp Restore, I think the benefit is even more so than what you could ever get in other terms. For example, like with Terp to Terp, I know there's a number of different like jackets, especially during the winter time, that you could pick up that are arguably would cost you $30 if you went somewhere else. And that's in a single visit. And that's not even including the campus pantry and the food services and the nutritional and dietitian services that they are, not dietitian, but they give you some nutritional education that they offer there as well. So this is what it would look like if it was implemented next year with a kind of staggered implementation plan. Again, it doesn't need to start at this number. And as you can see in the tabs on the spreadsheet that I shared as well, there's different tabs, and like they're hopefully cleaned up, and it's hard to put like I'm sure Michael found out too, it's hard to throw it into like a very easily consumable way. I hope I made it easy enough to consume, but there's different numbers there from like 15, 10%. Obviously, you can even change it more so than that if you would like to. Those were kind of just earmarks that I felt would be most useful for you all to see. So this is the high, like what the highest that we would be asking for in each of these categories. So, and the like +4, +2 would be for fiscal year 26, the following year. So if we implemented this the next year, be $20 for full-time, 10 for part-time. And then next year it would be $24 for graduate full-time and $12 for graduate part-time, if that makes sense. So I hope that made sense. And if anyone has questions, I will definitely open the floor to any questions that anyone has right now.
Questions, comments, ideas, thoughts from anyone? Nancy?
Hi, I'm Nancy. I'm from School of Public Policy. So thanks for joining our meeting and to discuss the sustainability fee. I was curious because I just wanted to double check because I thought that we already had like a campus pantry and like the Turp to Turp Restore. So would this just kind of be additional funding for that, or is it its own thing, or for different treat like helping a different population?
So as of right now, the Campus Pantry and Turp to Turp Restore both operate on the generosity of the Department of Res Life and the Department of Dining Services. So Res Life is for Turp to Turp, and then Dining Services is for the Campus Pantry. They do not provide permanent funding though. It's more of a like, if we have room in our budget, we'll give you some, and it's kind of renegotiated every year and renegotiated without any input from students, I might add. And so neither has permanent funding for employment. So what we discussed with the Student Sustainability Council most recently on like December 6th was they won't make a carve out for Turp to Turp, but what they'll do is not make them reapply for funding for the next 3 years. And then at the end of 3 years, they'll consider making a carve out for it, despite it being a student service that has that. So answered a little bit more than your question. I ranted, but I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, that helps.
Thank you.
Rose, go ahead.
Hey, thanks for the presentation. I just wanted to ask if you have any idea if the employment you would see for grads would be like a GA-ship, or would it be like hourly employment?
As far as I understand, it would be hourly employment, but I think both of them were open to exploring different aspects. So Lisa, who runs the Turp to Turp Restore, mentioned that she would only consider it after it's been passed that the graduates would pay the fee. So it was kind of one of those, like, it's kind of intensive thing to go through. So unless there's a reason to have a GA-ship, as in she wouldn't need to have a GA-ship if only undergraduates were paying it, then that would open the door to those conversations. And the Campus Pantry had similar. But otherwise, it would just open the door for graduates to have hourly pay as of right now.
Other questions? Seeing none. Reese, thank you so much for your time today.
I appreciate it. And if anyone has any other questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to me at any point. I will go ahead and put the presentation in the chat. Again, I apologize. There's like a couple names on there, a couple things on there from the template. So please ignore that. But otherwise, thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. Thank you. Michael, the floor is back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Reese. I really appreciate it. So I think maybe the easiest way to do this, I don't know, Keegan or Devon, please let me know if I am incorrect, is that I can present the fee and then people can vote after each one. Does that make sense? Or do we want to stick all the voting at the end?
We could.
Oh, go for it.
Keegan, go ahead. You got it.
I was gonna say, I think it might make sense just so people can keep track of what's what to do the vote after each explanation.
Okay, cool. Does that mean we should do one for the sustainability fee now?
Your call.
All right, I say yes. Reese, stick around. I don't know if I assume Reese is allowed to stick around. Get your news as it happens. So I suppose the way that the vote is going to happen is you'll get a pop-up that says, do you agree with the fee as presented? And although we just heard from Reese with a lot of different fee options presented. So I suppose our first vote should be on the most, let's see, the most expansive fee as proposed. Does that make sense? If someone else wants to choose, let me know. But
Can we please have the numbers in the chat for our reference as we vote?
of course. Let me see. Maybe it makes the most sense for me to pull up Reese's document and then share my screen. Let's see. Slideshow, and I will. Sorry, I have like captions on and they go like right over the buttons. Okay, here we go. Share. All right. So this vote that you will get a little pop-up for is for the one on the bottom. So the proportionate benefit and terp to terp and campus pantry. So that would be $28 per year, not semester, for full-time and $14 for part-time. So if we could get a vote, that would be cool.
Perfect. I am pulling that up.
Thank you. Oops, sorry, my bad. There we go. Oh, and thanks, Keegan, in the chat. Agreed. So this first vote will be for the most expansive.
I'm just gonna.
And if any questions occur to folks as we are getting this set up, feel free to say so.
So then, just to be clear, Nora, epidemiology PhD, we're voting on the proportionate benefit and terp to terp and campus pantry, the very last line, if we approve of that. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah.
How
And again,
exactly do we have to vote?
oh, there will be like a pop-up poll that comes up for you soon, hopefully.
It should be
There
up
you go.
right now.
Yay.
Ian, do you know off the top of your head how many voting members we do have?
As I struggle to unmute myself. 42, I think, is, although that's not necessarily how many who are here, obviously.
Mhm.
But for quorum purposes.
I just want to make sure everyone that's present voted.
Well, if they don't vote in a reasonable amount of time, that we can count as abstention.
I was going to say, I see 16 of 20 participated, but I don't know if the 20 are the only people who can vote.
It seems right to me. So
Oh, now I see 17, so.
I'm gonna close it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ending poll. I will happily share the results right now.
Okay, that's pretty close. Okay, so that is a no vote then on the most expansive. If we could do another poll then, which would be voting for a $24 fee or slash $12 for part-time for the proportionate benefit and campus pantry.
Would next expensive technically be the proportionate benefit and terp
Oh,
to
you
terp?
were totally right. Yeah, that's fair. It's more money, but
I just
it is
noticed that.
higher on the list. So yeah, good point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Proportionate benefit and terp to terp, right?
And terp to terp, exactly.
Everyone should have access to it now. And I'm gonna look again for that 17 number. $16. More person. Perfect. I'm going to close this and poll, share results.
Thank you all. Very helpful. So that's a no for the proportionate benefit and the terp to terp. So then our next would be the proportionate benefit and campus pantry. So that would include the carve out for the campus pantry, so this is the $24 for full-time and $12 for part-time would be our next vote.
Proportionate benefit and campus pantry?
Yes, that's right.
Perfect. Launching it now. Again, looking for that 17 number.
Yeah.
Thank you all for participating.
Yeah, no, you all are quick. I love to see it.
I know I joked and said hopefully we got out at 1:30, but maybe one day. We could be optimistic, but one day.
I hope we get out by 2. I'm not sure if it's gonna happen, but I'm gonna do my best.
Again, looking for that 17 number. Close it in 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. So that passed. All right. So that is big news. So this is a yes vote for the proportionate benefit and campus pantry. So that would be a new fee for graduate students for $24 a year /12 for part-time, which would support the sustainability efforts and also our campus pantry, which I know grad students, we really rely on. So awesome. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I don't think then we need to vote for the other ones. Does that seem fair? Because we approved the more expansive one.
Yeah, that's the point of doing the more expensive to less expensive process.
Love
So
to see it. Okay, cool. So thank you so much. And Reese, thank you so much for being here. And for explaining all of this.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
Sure. Yeah. Great. So with that, I will move on to our other fees. Okay. So because in the interest of time, let me move on to ones that I think might be more straightforward. I don't know, we'll see. But let me just, okay, cool. So I'm going to share my screen once again. And okay, share. Okay, cool. So the next fee, okay, so there's nothing to vote on for athletics because there is no fee increase. The next is the shuttle bus fee. So there's literally just one proposal here, and the increase then would bring it up $17 or sorry, yeah, $17 for full-time, $8 for part-time. This is about a 5.47 or 0.13 increase. And all of this stuff, it's not enhancement funding. They're not asking to do anything different. These are just increases in wages and fringe benefits for employees. So these are stuff that they've already like committed to do. Increase in utility costs, increase in inflation for maintenance and repair, fuel, etc. And then increases in insurance, increases in enhancements to certain routes, and then an increase in overhead, which the university charges units like a different percentage for, or like a specific percentage fee or something for overhead. And so that whole fee has gone up. So that 46 cents per person is getting put into this. So that is a 16.81 increase, which they are rounding up because fees have to be to the nearest dollar. So they're rounding it up. Yeah, to 17 and then $8 for part-time. And I think when I asked them about the rounding, they said that like maybe last year they rounded down and so this year they're rounding up, that sort of thing. So these are, again, they're not doing anything, they're not asking for anything different, they're just asking for fees to cover costs that already exist. Any questions about the transportation shuttle bus fee?
Rose, go ahead. Rose.
Sorry. So I see they're not adding anything new, but can I guarantee that they're not going to take anything away? Because we voted for a fee increase last year, with the understanding that it was to cover these kinds of things, and then they cut shuttle lines this year. So
that is true. And yeah, no. I mean, I think they claim they don't want to. I think they have tried to like add stops to like some routes that were cut. They tried to like add stops to, I believe. But yeah, that's what I got. I think I saw Brandon.
Hey y'all, Brandon here, higher education representative. I am with Rose here. They continue to increase days, but continue to cut lines, and quite frankly, with no reassurance of what their future plan is, I don't think I can get behind this.
Keegan, go ahead.
Yeah, so I cannot speak this. I should preface this by saying this is not a defense at all. I agree with the concerns raised. I just wanted to mention, because I have spoken with DOTS on a number of occasions about a variety of things, including the shuttle program, parking, etc. I can say that they are kind of between a rock and a hard place. They are trying very hard to cut costs and increase revenue, but they keep losing funding sources, and they keep a lot of it is entirely outside of their control. However, I do think it's entirely fair also for it to not be on us to bail them out. So this is not, I just wanted to say that is, from my understanding, this is not them being like greedy or malicious. It's them being stuck in a tough position and trying to find solutions and not really finding much options available to them. It's also why they increase bus rental fees and things like that. So just wanted to give that brief insight.
Nancy, go ahead.
Nancy, Public Policy. So I attend several of the transportation committee meetings, and I know Michael is there as well. And so at the last meeting, they're just like, there's especially some faculty staff members who are like very vocal about like not wanting to hurt the shuttle program. And usually sometimes that's like the first to get really hurt with like the availability of stops and the frequency of running. And I take the shuttle myself. I've noticed a drastic cut in like the availability and like how often they run. But I know that they've made a point of saying that they don't want it to be a target as much like moving forward, and like they do want to support it. So I feel like I've seen them like initiate that and like wanting to make it a priority to support students with it. So, but yeah, it is still a challenge when getting these fees increases.
Thank you, Nancy. And thank you everyone for your comments. Before I launch the poll for this one, I do want to call for a motion to extend the meeting 10 minutes after 2 p.m. so 2:10, just so that we can get through all of these votes for our position. Just so that we're not scrambling around.
Motion
Before.
to move our end time to 2:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Thank you. Michael, are we good to launch the poll?
I would love to. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. I'll leave this open for about 30 seconds. Perfect. Right at that number. I'm going to end this poll, share these results.
Well, that was decisive. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. So that is a no for the shuttle fee. I'm going to move on in the interest of time to the student union fee. So STAMP is asking for a 2%. Thank you. For a 2% increase. So $8 for grad, full-time, $4 for part-time. This is again for like mandatory cost increases. So you'll notice that they're first asking for like more, but there is actually projected increase in enrollment, which then bumps that down. So yeah, so they're $9.23 is to cover changes to budgeted salaries, fringe benefits, and worker compensation. I'll just point out that fringe benefits, you may recall from last week, STAMP used to pay for GSG's GA fringe benefits, but that's now going to be covered because STAMP told us so, by the graduate student fee. So this is including, not including graduate student GA fringe benefits for GSG, but it does count for other ones. Increase in fuel and maintenance, increase in operating costs, and increase in building coverage, so insurance. And then with the change, because they're expecting greater income anyway from increased enrollment. So any questions? I think I saw Rose had a question.
No, sorry.
Oh no, you're totally good. Okay, so any questions about stamps? Yeah, Brandon.
Brandon here. Happy Friday. Higher education representative. I have a question. I'm wondering if past representatives can speak on whether or not these types of proposals from the union are consistent or not.
I'll volunteer that this is pretty standard. Yeah, nothing particularly abnormal in the last 3 years that I've been here, at least.
I can say also that these like percent increases are like roughly consistent with inflation in the US. So it's I don't know. It seems like not that surprising that like, you know, the salaries are going up, that other costs are going up. So yeah. But whether or not we think that it's cool for STAMP to ask this is like, you know, the question, I suppose.
Any other comments? Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Seeing none. Again, I strongly encourage or ask that everyone remains on so that we can have quorum while we get through these votes.
Oh, I see Nianta's question. Given that there's an increase in enrollment, why are they raising the fee? Just because the costs that are offset don't equal the costs of like the mandatory increases that they have. So it's like they have to increase these salaries, they have to increase these whatever. And so while it does go down by like, you know, offsets it by $6, it doesn't offset it by like everything. Although, yeah, I do see what you're saying in terms of like, why is it $6? That doesn't really, does that? Yeah, no, never mind. That math. I can't do math. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, the inflation doesn't adjust our salaries accordingly is certainly a conversation. I don't think the STAMP is the the one that can like, I mean, certainly it wouldn't hurt to have stamp support, but fortunately or unfortunately, stamp isn't the one that's setting all the GA rates. Although I guess they're setting their own GA rates. So yeah, take that into consideration, I suppose. Cool. The stamp is a large employer for GAs. Yeah, I see Brandon in the chat.
Any other questions? Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will launch the poll. Perfect. I'll give it another 5 seconds. Perfect. And I will end the poll, share the results.
Okay. Thank you so much. Cool. Moving on to the next one, graduate student activities. We did that already. Score. All right. Moving on to Recwell. So recreation services gives a fee. Okay, so this fee is slightly different in that in addition to asking for mandatory costs, they also have an enhancement that they are asking for. So I will explain the mandatory costs first. So they want to increase it by $13/650. I think this is also like another little like rounding thing that they did. You'll see. Anyway, so that's like a 2.84% increase. So they want to increase employee wages and fringe benefits, and they explain why. Some of this is for like bargaining unit employees, other things. Let's see. Okay, 248 for a net increase in utilities, which they explain. Overhead expense adjustment. So again, that fee that the university charges each unit. To more insurance stuff, 2% on operating costs. I guess just their overall operating costs are going up. And then again, this is offset by more expected enrollment. So this adds up to $11. But then they are asking for $2 per person in order to increase the subsidy for students to the university golf course. So the university golf course, for like 20 years or something, students have been paying a subsidy of $2. That's already like included in your recreation fee. And so, oh, just kidding. I'm so sorry. 30 years. It's been going on. But basically, student round for a round of golf has like gone up a lot, and so they're asking for an additional $2, so that they don't have to raise rates as much for students to play golf. They did say that, gosh, they gave some numbers, but basically that the golfing population at the university is not necessarily just what you would think in terms of like, I don't know, like white upper class people. And that there is also like options that students like can pay for memberships to the golf course and things like this. But basically golf remains like relatively popular, but our subsidy to it is the same rate that it's been for the last 30 years. So yeah, so my first of all, any questions? And then second of all, when we vote, I will first ask the vote for the $13 with the enhancement, and then for one without if that doesn't pass. So any questions about this fee for Recwell? If not, we can start voting.
Only,
so yeah, please.
Only on the $13, right?
Yeah, so the $13 includes the $11 of kind of like mandatory costs that they have. And then also the $2 enhancement to subsidize student golf.
Perfect. So I will launch this poll. I'm looking for 15 votes. Perfect. So I will end the poll, share results.
Thank you so much. I can also point out that SGA, I don't remember if it was like the whole body, but this proposal was also taken to SGA and they also rejected this enhancement. I don't think they rejected the whole thing, but they did reject the enhancement because they said it didn't meet their kind of like equity and sustainability requirements. I hope that doesn't sway anyone's vote on that. So if we could get one more vote for this, just for the $11, so this is without the enhancement for subsidizing student golf.
So that would be $11?
$11, yeah.
So pretty much the same thing, just 11, right? Just confirm.
Exactly. Same thing, just 11 instead of 13.
Perfect. Trying to make this as quick as possible for everyone.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
Again, looking for that number 15.
Oh my God.
How many votes do we have after this one?
Let's see. That's a great question. Let me see. There are 2 votes after this one.
In that case, I have a motion to extend to 215.
Seconded.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Thank you all so much. Looking, waiting for one more, hopefully. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay,
Perfect.
we're at 15.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you so much. Moving speedily along, the last fee that we already pay that we have a thing for is the counseling center. So the counseling center is asking for just $1, $1 in fees. So a 2 or a 4% increase. So basically this is for, sorry, they gave it to me in like weird formats, so I'm doing the best I can here. Okay, so they are asking for increase in salaries and fringe of 50 cents and then 28 cents of overhead expense adjustment. Again, that fee that the campus assesses them. They are also asking for enhancements. So this is different. They are asking for salary adjustments totaling $6,000. So they want to basically they listed their staff psychologists at like a certain level when they were hired, and I think they wanted to, sorry, my bad, they wanted to like increase the like listed salaries for some folks that they are looking to fill. So they had asked for too little before and now they want to up that, so that is 22 cents enhancement, totaling $1. So first of all, any questions? That is less than a cup of coffee. Yeah. So, any questions about this? Yeah, Nora, please.
I don't have any questions. I just want to point out that one of the reasons they might want to increase wages for people in the counseling center is to help fund the overnight night shifts for the care teams that take care of the crisis calls and stuff. So it definitely is. Yeah, Emhart, thank you, Brandon. Yeah, it definitely is something that should be well compensated, and I would support this. That's all.
Cool. So I guess if there are no other questions or comments, I would call for a vote on the full thing, including the enhancements. So this is the dollar. I guess I would also point out that because fees are rounded to the nearest dollar, even without the enhancement, it would round to $1. So yeah, this is just, yeah.
Just
I
an
guess
increase of $1.
I'll just, yeah, I was gonna say, I think it would round anyway to $1. So yeah, I guess we only need one vote. So
Got it.
do you approve the dollar increase? Yes or no?
So launching that right now. Again, looking for 15. Well,
Right.
oh, perfect. And
We got to 15. All right, thank you so much. Wonderful. And then this last one is the health center fee. And so this one, I'm gonna try to get this out as quickly as I can. So you heard from Dr. Marinopoulos last week. Basically, the health center wants to institute a student fee in order to as you can see on this, eliminate insurance collections and out-of-pocket expenses for students. And so that would cost $91.26. They want to balance the budget because they have an anticipated budget deficit. So that is another like $23.60. They also want a $500,000 cushion for contingencies. So they're not really telling us what that's for. I'm really trying to be fair here, but they're saying like they want to maybe support possible capacity expansion. They promise to use it for things that increase access for students. That is another $14.68. And then again, if you've seen with others, increased overhead cost of $6.46. So this would be a brand new fee of $136 per year for full-time or $68 for part-time. I will also point out to you, as I did in my memo, that let's see, in the 2022-23 academic year, so this was just like 3 fiscal years ago, there used to be a student health service fee, but these were considered, this along with other fees in a fee restructuring, were considered, quote, core operations more appropriately supported by tuition rather than dependent on fees. And the graduate school touts this on their website as well, saying that mandatory fees totaling $550, which included a previous health center fee of $96, were put into tuition. So that would mean, again, as I said at the beginning of this presentation, that graduate assistants who get tuition remission don't pay for that. That said, the majority of grad students who pay tuition still pay for it. Okay, cool. So that is just my like little bit of context. So this would be a reintroduction, sorry, of the student fee, but it would get out of pocket expenses for a lot of services at the health center to zero. Thus, as Dr. Marinopoulos argued, increasing access. Okay. Olu wrote, does this bill mean students won't have to pay for vaccinations? So vaccinations are actually not included. Vaccinations would be billed through your insurance. So that would mean that students whose insurance doesn't cover health center visits wouldn't be able to get vaccines for free at the health center. That said, students whose health insurance does cover vaccines, it probably would be like free or very cheap at the health center, if that helps. Yeah. So it would eliminate out-of-pocket expenses for like certain visits to the health center. It wouldn't make it free for prescriptions, for immunizations, and for a few other stuff too. I think he put it on here.
Hi, Michael, sorry to interrupt.
You're good.
Quick motion to extend another 5 minutes.
That's the last vote, I promise.
thank you all.
Sure.
Var, question, comment?
Yeah, so I actually spoke to President Pines today. I had a meeting just before the assembly regarding the health center fee that Michael brought up in our executive meetings. And I have certain information about it which might or might not be useful for people to vote. So basically, initially we had the fee that Michael mentioned, the $96 or $98 fee. $96 fee in 2022 to 2023, which was included in tuition, and this new one is not. So basically, I wanted to like get a gist of what the difference is and why we are not including it this time in the tuition, and if we can. So basically, the old one was just for like basic stuff like cold and vaccine, and this new one is for more serious medical issues that people might face, is how my discussion went with President Pines. And what he told me was that last time Board of Regents approved the fee to be added to tuition, because that's the body that does the approval, because they do not want extra burden on, especially on grad students, to pay this fee. This time also they wanted to, but the issue is that there is sort of friction that they're facing from faculty. So what happens is, if the this cost is included in tuition, for all the students who get assistantships and get tuition remission, all of that cost goes on the faculty members, because they have to write a memo to the government asking for, higher proposal of money, and they get less money for research. So this time they're facing sort of a backlash or resistance for this, and that's why mostly this won't get added to the tuition. So that's why it's not, and it's coming up as a different fee. But yeah.
Thanks so much for that context. Appreciate it.
Any
I
additional
was going to say
questions?
we are like well over time. So if there's anything else, otherwise, I would be interested in a vote.
Perfect. I will launch that. And that's the total 136, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Launching the poll as we speak. Again, looking for that lucky number 15. Again, we all truly appreciate you staying an additional 20 minutes.
Thank you so much. If you feel personally victimized by me, send me an email. I will apologize and buy you a coffee.
This assembly does not run without you. Looking for one more vote.
15th person. I believe in you.
You're out there somewhere. Where are you, 15? Sorry, I'm in the holiday spirit.
So fair.
I might have to relaunch the poll.
Relaunch.
Rose said they didn't get the poll.
Perfect. Rose, do you actually just want to message me your vote? That'll help.
I also didn't get the vote.
Oh, I'm just gonna end the poll and then relaunch poll. Hopefully. If anyone doesn't get
Personally
it now,
victimized by Zoom, let me know.
did everyone get it now?
Will Zoom buy me coffee if that's the case?
Yep.
Michael, do we have funds for that, right?
Yeah, we do, for sure.
Oh, thank you, Rose. We are victimized by Zoom. Got it. Okay, perfect. We are at 15. So
Oh
I'm
my
ending the
gosh.
poll.
Thank you so much. I really
Showing
appreciate all of you
results.
staying. Oh my gosh, seriously. Couldn't do this without you. Sorry, it was a little bit of a hot mess, but we did it. Thank you so much. I will keep you all posted on student.
Thank you.
Again, thank you all for being here. Just happy holidays and have a great break. If you need anything, reach out. That's all.
Thank you.
Happy
Yeah,
holidays.
Thank
I'll
you. Happy
probably send
holidays.
my presidential address as an email.